Welcome, guys, to another episode of the Genesis Podcast. We have a very special guest for you guys today, but before we introduce him, I want to let you guys know that the Genesis Podcast is still on YouTube. We are still on Apple Podcasts. We still are on Spotify. They didn't kick us out yet, like they tried to do with Joe Rogan, right? But we're here. We're still here. We're still moving. We're still thriving, right? But without any further ado, I want to introduce our guest for the day, Ginoy, better known as G-RYTE.
Yeah. What it is. How you guys doing, man?
Man, we good, man. We good. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. My kids are keeping me blessed. But I appreciate the opportunity to join you guys on your podcast. Caught a few episodes, and you guys are doing, nowadays you could just see that people are doing a lot of different things, out-of-the-box things to, convey the gospel message in different formats. So it's a pleasure to be a part of what you guys doing.
We really appreciate you coming out. You were one of the guys, you were one of the first guys that I ever thought of, having on the Genesis Podcast. Growing up like as a young convert, going to Mississauga. Remember when we used to have the rallies? Now we have conference, right?
When
we used to have the rallies, like I would see you and I would be like, yo, this guy's sick, eh? Ginoy always moves sick. Ginoy always moves cool. Like, yo, nothing startles the man. The man just there. Just going with it. You know what I mean? So I always wanted to like sit down and like have something like this, like have a forum like this where you could just talk to the man and see what's going, what's in this man's mind, bro. This man just
pick your brain, man.
Fam,
not a lot.
It's like the man just, man, he's like he's a genius. Just sit back, just like.
Now you got a chance to dissect.
Now you have a chance to
pick your brain.
Yeah.
See what's in there.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. But like I was saying, you've been an example for a lot of us, all of us. When we got saved, we seen you, we seen your life, and we don't really know your testimony like that. We don't know how you came to Christ. Did you get hit by a bus and then someone came to you on your your deathbed and preached to you and you were miraculously healed? I'm joking, by the way, but we don't really know those details. So we wanted to like take this time and just start off by just like hearing from you how you met Jesus.
Man. Well, wow. So for me, grew up in Toronto, Jane and Chicheway, as we call it, brown bricks, church, Southside Jane. And I could definitely say that I had an amazing childhood, despite the fact of growing up in a single-parent household. Me and two other siblings. My parents separated when I was young, but I have three other siblings on my dad's side, so I'm the oldest for both my mom and my father. It was a very interesting dynamic growing up. What was interesting about it was the fact that everyone I grew up with pretty much was in the same circumstance. And your friends pretty much were your family. You spent all the time with them. I remember just being outside summer days. You're outside from 9 in the morning till 2 a.m. My mom's like, yo, if you come inside, you're staying inside. So it's like, you're not going inside. You're drinking from the laundromat sink and all that. Like, you're like, if I go inside, I can't go back outside. And what was worse about it is that my balcony faced the back where all the action was. So when I got those times when I went upstairs, my mom's like, I told you, that's it. Go read a book. I'll be standing by the window looking outside, and the man and are like, yo, come outside. I'm like, yo, I can't, But yeah, how would I describe it? I would say my neighborhood was just a melting pot of different nationalities, people going through different circumstances. All I know is that everyone was suffering, but we're all making it work. You know, as I think it's Bugle that says it. You know, sometimes you laugh just to cope in life, and that's what the motto of people were kind of just as they lived in those circumstances. Metro housing. The saying is really true. You don't know what you don't have until someone shows you, or you see the other side.
Right.
And I didn't really feel like I didn't have. Growing up, I didn't just because of being in a single parent household, like I didn't get the opportunity to, you know, play in, you know, many, what would you call it, like rep teams or being things such as that. But we made fun with what we had, you know, playing full court games in the hallways on fire alarm signs, whether it be going to the convenience store. Kids don't do this. Stealing the watermelons from in front of the store and going around the neighborhood selling watermelons. We're entrepreneurs, you know. Playing manhunt all day, like, you know, we just did whatever. Going out, stealing bikes and, you know, thinking it's your own, and someone will come spray paint everything like, yo, this is my bike, you know. And a man was stealing, you're upset about it. But then you stole it too, you know what I mean? But it was just fun. It was amazing, man. I'm actually saddened by culture nowadays because I drive around and I see no kids outside. I see nobody, you know, everyone's just inside or on their phone or playing video games, and you can't really build relationships like that. Like, I'm blessed to have friendships that I've had since I was 7, 8 years old. Over 20 years, and not a lot of people have that. But specifically to answer your question about my testimony, how did I come to Christ, there's a lot of things I could touch on. I guess to sum it up real quickly, a man came to our neighborhood in about 2006, 2007, around that time, and I remember when he came, something was very different about him. The reason being was because in my neighborhood, only time someone came there was either for politics, they're an undercover cop, or it was a beef thing. Like, other than that, like, what are you doing here? Right? So you know everyone from your hood, and, you know, everyone that's around you know everybody. So it's like this individual came, and the kids will be playing basketball, and he'll, you know, buy them drinks, you know, Gatorades or whatever have you, and just beat, and he kept coming. And in my mind, I was like, what do you want? You know, because anyone who came there, they always wanted something, but they never gave anything. One memory I had was, I remember there was this politician, this MP who was going to be elected, and they gathered the entire neighborhood by the recreation center that we had there, and we had a huge meeting, and they're like, you know, what are the needs of the community, and this and this and that. We're like, you know, we need the basketball court fixed, we need this, we need that. And we had this 2-hour, 3-hour meeting, and I never seen anything done or this man come back again. Wow. So that's just a picture of, like, you know, people always wanted something, and obviously he wanted votes to win, right, the riding. But this gentleman was different, and little did I know was that he was sharing the gospel with people. Now, I didn't grow up in a Christian household. Christianity was more so like a proverb, if I should describe it anyway. It was just, you know, we took the sayings, you know, and lived like in a Caribbean. I grew up in a Caribbean household, so lived the best that we could, but it didn't have any application. It was like, best way I could describe it is like a sweater you get from an auntie or something that you don't really like. You have it in your closet, but you don't wear it. Right. You know, it's there, but it has no purpose. So our faith was like that. It's there, but what's the real purpose of it, you know, other than praying before you go to sleep? Anyways, I remember him coming to me one day, and I remember I was trying to run, and something said in my heart, like, stop and listen. And he asked me, you know, do you believe in Jesus? Ray-Tay-Tay. And I was like, yeah, I believe in Jesus. Who doesn't, you know? Right. And he's like, are you living for him? And I was like, nah, to be honest, I knew I wasn't living for God. Because I'm a very analytical person, and I always have, in a weird way, like inward conversations with myself. And just, I remember asking myself, like, what's the point of life? Like, you know, I had a lot of questions in my mind, just being a young teen. And he asked me this question that really changed my life. And he said, if you're supposed to die today, where would you go? Now, why that question was so powerful is because I knew my neighborhood. I've seen people get shot. A lot of people died. Like, I never pictured my life past 25 years old. And it's not like you're asking a kid in a suburb who've never seen anything. Like, you know, sad to say, there was a lot of violence in our community. And it's just normal, really and truly. So when he asked me that, it was like a train hit me. And I was like, yo, I've never thought about that. You know, I put on my shoes every day, and I go and live my life, but I never thought to myself, what happens if I actually die?
Yeah.
So that started a process. Fast forward now, went to church a couple times, whatever have you, but I'll say I really surrendered my heart to God when I was going off to university. I was 19 years old. Excuse me. And what happened? I was just bad in a lot of things, mainly sexual immorality, lust. Bible says, he who sins is a slave to sin. And I felt like that. Like, literally, I felt like a puppet who had a puppeteer and was being controlled by the person who was the puppeteer. I felt like I had no control over myself. Like, just seeing a woman, I would naturally picture them naked, or, you know, you always have thoughts of, you know, what are you going to do with them? Right. And I felt in bondage. And really and truly, you don't know you're in bondage till you try to leave. Right. Or you try to change your life. And you're like, I can't. And that was me. So I remember just going, it was a Wednesday, I think. We watched this movie at the church. I remember going to church. And the movie was called The End of the Spear. And what stood out to me about that movie was the fact that there were missionaries going to reach this lost tribe. Now, this tribe was known to kill everyone that they came in encounter with. They were cannibals. So, you know, as a black person, you're always thinking in your mind, they're showing you the warning signs. Why are you going to go try to reach these people? They said if you go, you're going to die, and you're still going to go. Come on, like, you know what I'm saying? So I'm sitting back in my chair. I'm like, yo, what's this guy's on? So they, like the story goes, they went and reached these people, they made contact, and then they end up killing them. So I'm laughing in my head. And I remember the scene changed, and it was showing their wives. And the wives were mourning, crying. Obviously, you know, their husbands died, you know, the fathers of the children, all that stuff. But what stood out to me, they said, we're going to go back. Now, picture this. You're married, you have children. Your husband and wife says they're going to do something for God. You know, they warn them not to do it. They end up dying. Now, you're a widow. And you say to yourself, I'm going to go back and do the same thing that they just did and succumb to. That blew my mind. And I was like, who would do that? Like, why would someone do that knowing that everything that's at stake and that they would lose their life? Yeah. And I remember in that moment, it's like I had Beats headphones on. I don't know how to describe it, but it was like the screen just got super bright, and I heard a loud voice, just internally, I guess, say to me, look at these great men making great sacrifices, and you don't want to sacrifice for me. And I was like, shoot. I knew exactly what God was speaking about and things that I had to let go. And I said, all right. You know, and at that moment I said, you know what, God, I'm going to truly surrender to you. Yeah. I remember going to the altar and saying, God, I'm tired of trying to make myself right. I can't do that. You know, it's only by your grace, and I need your help. I clearly have no strength to change myself. And I remember bowing my knee, and I felt like something left my body that day when I truly surrendered. And ever since then, it's just been taking it a day at a time. That's the best advice someone ever gave me, just take it a day at a time as a Christian, and trying to honor God through that. You know, going in, I said, you know, this is going to be a 30-day trial for me. Like, I mainly because, and I was having a conversation with someone yesterday, I think what really was the main problem is that I understood, or I had an idea about church, but I didn't understand the importance of it or the purpose of it. It wasn't until I had an encounter with Jesus and I was like, oh, I get church now. A lot of people encounter church, but they don't encounter Jesus. So they have a problem with the church, but it's like, you know, you need to meet God. So when I had that encounter, I was like, oh, I understand now.
Yeah, it's like, sorry to cut you off, but it's like people encounter religion, but you encountered relationship.
Exactly. You know? So going back now to the gentleman that preached to me, I never, before that time, like he was doing crazy things, like making 4 or 5 trips to our neighborhood, you know, to bring us to church. Like I never seen somebody do that. Like, why are you doing this? Like putting people in his trunk of his car to get to church. Like this is to go to church. We're talking about church here. You know what I mean? And I was like, I never seen that. I never seen, to summarize, I've never seen a man serve God in that way.
Yeah.
It was always my aunties or older women. Like that's what I thought. Christianity is for older women and stuff like that. But I've never seen a man, much less a young man, serve God in that way. So radical, so on fire, with no regard for anything else. And I was like, this is what Christianity. Now I understand what it means to be a Christian. So that's kind of the short version of how I came to Christ and what God did in my life.
Wow, it's amazing. Amazing. I mean, I've heard you mention, like, you know, some of the things that you mentioned, but I never heard like those details before.
Yeah.
Like I think the movie that you were talking about, The End of the Spear, I actually read the book. I think one of the wives, Elizabeth Elliot, Jim Elliot's wife, he was one of the missionaries that passed away. And the same thing that you were saying about watching the movie and being like, look at these men making sacrifices, you can't make sacrifices for me. That's the same way I felt when I was reading that book, man. Like, you see these guys, 5 men, go into a nation like you're saying, and they knew what the outcome could be, right? But they said, you know what? If we die, right, we're okay with it. We're okay with dying knowing that we reach these people, we let these people know about the gospel, and they did die, right? And there it was in my face. I'm like, yo, look at these men making the sacrifices, but you don't wanna cut off, you know, certain things in your life. You want to continue to do your foolishness, and these men are dying for me, right? So that was very powerful. Yeah, man, that moved me still. Just remember that whole story. Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, for sure.
That's crazy.
I like what you said, sacrifice, because a lot of times we don't see the sacrifice. But I think when Pastor Gary was coming into your neighborhood and outreach, he sacrificed a lot. You know, in those times as a Christian, he could have been a religious Christian. You know, he could have been using that time instead of, like, you know, outreaching to you guys. He could have been out there doing whatever, going making more money at work. You know what I mean? Go playing basketball, go work out, go work on his own physical, go work on his own, you know, own life pretty much, yeah. But you could see the sacrifice, and I think that's what it takes to make it in this Christian thing. You know, it's sacrifice, a life really poured out, a life really dedicated. Because think about it, he's making 4 or 5 trips to church. That means he's waking up super early in the morning. You know, he's sacrificing his sleep. Sleep is something we all love. You know what I mean? He's sacrificing his sleep just to pick you guys up and drop you off. And to see that, and it's like a question, it's like, oh, wow, this guy's really depositing something into me. You know what I mean? This guy's really taking his time, out of his way to, like, okay, invest into me and my neighborhood, and he's doing something different.
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of times in our communities, you know, you don't have, like, the role models that were in our communities were all drug dealers or, you know, people not really doing anything. It was just they were your examples because they were older.
Yeah.
But they weren't your examples out of personal influence or because they did something positive. It's just because of age, right? This is who you see. This is my frame of reference. For me, my world was those 4 corners of my neighborhood. Like, that's all I knew, right? So this shaped my framework of how I thought, my worldview. And yeah, like I said, your Pastor Gary coming in and minister, at that time he wasn't a pastor, he was just a Christian. Yeah. Attending church. And it just kind of speaks to me on how one person can really make a difference. And how, you know, if he was lukewarm or, you know, kind of religious, like as you spoke about, and we seen that, I'd be like, you know, like, it would turn me off. Yeah. Probably the next person who came and shared the gospel with me, it's like, I'd be like, I don't want to hear what you have to say, right? But because that was my first real encounter with the gospel, no one ever preached to me before. And it was legit. I was like, wow, like, it's actually true. the Bible is actually true, and hearing some of his life, and it's like, I just kept asking myself, like, what is it that he wants? Like, why are you spending, now being older, I see, like, you're spending your time, your money, your energy, your emotion, with no guarantee of return. You know what I mean? At that time, I think there's probably 20 of us, 30 of us coming to this church. Now, we are just like, bad, not even, I won't say bad. I'll just say like we weren't mature. We just had no structure in our life. We were just free living kids.
Guidance.
No guidance, thank you.
Guidance.
You know, so we're coming to church, and, you know, at that time, church was mostly Caucasian, and we're these young Toronto kids. And it's just like we had, I guess, a chip on our shoulder. So if you're coming talking to me, it's like, yo, what is it? Like, what are you talking to me about? We always want to fight. You always want to confront that person because you're taught to do that to survive, right? Consciously or subconsciously, you adapt that nature, right? So I guess really and truly God knew what he was doing, because I was suspicious of, you know, typically if you see like a white man or whatever, like, oh, he's probably a police officer or something. But seeing a black man come and, you know, demonstrate, you know, the gospel, you know, loving your neighbor and all this stuff with nothing really guaranteed in return, it really spoke volumes. And we kind of see the impact of that today.
Yeah. Powerful, man.
Yeah. You know, it comes to my mind, you grew up in Chetaway. Some people call it Chichi Way.
TGC.
And it's powerful. Like today, there's you. There's I don't want to name drop too much, right? But there's like
A lot of brothers.
there's a lot of brothers.
Good brothers.
When you look at it now, when you see like all the guys that are in church with you today, you guys grew up together. Like how does it make you feel? Like when you see that, like, does it like are you like wow, yo, I never expected this to happen, or like what's your feeling when you see that?
Man, best way I can describe it is like that song that says, "In awe of you." I'm simply in awe of what God has done. Because I think of it like right now I have 3 boys, right? And I thought to myself, or someone told me that you're pretty much raising 3 families. They're going to lead 3 families, 3 homes, generations to come. And I was like, yo, that's deep. Right. Him not saving us, him preaching the gospel to us and us eventually getting saved and being converted and surrendered to Christ, it saved generations, it saved families, households.
Yeah.
I vowed I would never get married. I would never do a lot of things.
Yeah.
And it was only until God renewed my mind, I was like, okay, like this, before how I was living or the example I had before, it's wrong. But I thought it was right. And what I thought was right before, I thought was wrong. But God renewed my mind and changed my entire perspective. So how it makes me feel, I'm truly in awe, you know, but at the same time saddened, because there are so many of us. And a lot of my friends I grew up with are either dead, in jail, not really doing anything in their life. But at the same time, I'm encouraged because those who are still alive, they see our testimony and see what God can do. And, you know, we still can impact their life in some way and let them see, like, you know, this is, there's still hope for you. Because if I was thinking about this, set aside, if you're looking at a Christian, set aside his faith.
Yeah.
Okay? 2 people, let's say, you know, 2 men, they have 2 families, children, work. What's the difference? There is none. There's no difference between them, right? They're both faced in a practical level. We both experience the same thing. And that's why they say it's not about what faces you, it's about how you deal with them. With Jesus now, Jesus comes in the picture. We're faced with the same things, but we deal with them, we cope with them differently, or we experience a different way of looking at them. We know that a lot of times it's the result of our sin. But more importantly than that is he gives us purpose. My purpose is not just to work and provide for my family. My purpose is far more than that, you know. A man's worth is not in what he leaves behind after he dies. It's about the people he has influenced.
Yes.
You know, and the relationships he has. So I truly value those relationships. I truly value those friendships. It's worth it. It's priceless.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. That's amazing. You know, man, I have so much to say, right? But I know we got to take a quick break, or you know, the producers are gonna get mad at us. No, I'm joking. We have no producers. We're gonna take a quick break. We're gonna reset, get our minds right, and we're gonna get right back into it. We're gonna talk about, you know, your music career. Talk about how, you know,
career.
talk about how you're big time now. No, I'm just joking. But when we get back, we're gonna get into, like, you know, music and how you started with that, and you know how you're using that to influence people to come closer to Christ or get closer to Christ. All right. So we'll be back, guys. We are back with Ginoy, our special guest, or should I call him G-RYTE? Doesn't matter, man. But we here. G-RYTE sounds better. Well, we're here. We're having a great time so far. Ginoy just shared his testimony with us. Shared a lot with us, actually. Very, very impactful, very insightful. But we're gonna continue. And we're gonna continue from this. Music, the most powerful thing to the ear,
Right.
other than the gospel. Music. So, Ginoy, how did you start with the whole music thing?
Man, music. Well, really and truly, like, doing music, it just came out of, came by accident, really. Serving in a church. Like I said, I grew up with a couple of people in my neighborhood, and Jameer was one of those people. And he lived 2 floors beneath me, my family. So a lot of times I'll just go over his house, and he would be doing music. And I literally just be sitting there, and I'm like taking it in, and it's like, yo, do this, do that. I'm like, yo, that's sick, whatever. But I never imagined myself doing music personally. It was never my thing. Like, if anyone knows me, I'm really, I'm just in the background. I'm cool with that.
Weren't you a baller?
That's another story. You know, but I was.
Put you on the spot.
Oh man.
Colin told me to say that.
Man's from the hood. Every man's a baller, bro. Every man's a baller in the hood.
I'm telling you.
Oh man. We did something. But yeah, I would just go to his house and he'd be doing his thing. His dad, you know, was in the music industry and, you know, movies and stuff like that. Like the Juice movies, dad's in the Juice movies. So he was big into music, and I was just like chilling, whatever have you. But in church, I remember they asked him to perform. And I guess they were trying to get the young kids involved, whatever have you. And I would just go on stage with him and like sing the hook. Like, I was like Puff, I guess. I'm like just a hype man, like, you know? And I'm like I said, I was cool with that. It was never something like I wanted to do per se. Like, I'm typically like a reserved person. I'm more like I don't mind playing the background, right? I don't care for all the spotlight on me. And then what happened was, I guess, you know, people kind of stopped doing music, or people have left the church, and they're like, yo, we need to fill a need. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll try writing something, whatever. Because I always liked music, but in the sense of me being a quote-unquote rapper or whatever, right. I was like, I don't see myself doing that. So that's kind of how it started, really, just out of a need in the church.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's nice. That's really how it almost always starts.
Yeah.
It's like, yo, we need you to do a song. We heard you have a 1, 2. They're freezing. Okay, I'll try.
Exactly. There was never a personal plan or ambition of mine at all.
Right. Mello, you're I mean, I don't know. Like, if you would call yourself a rapper,
Wordsmith, bro. Wordsmith.
Wordsmith.
Word-
Wow.
what?
Wordsmith.
What did the man just say?
Wordsmith,
Wordsmith? Yo, have you ever heard a man say that before?
Yo, all I know is that he swept Nella off his feet. So the man must have some words. So.
Go back into those old text messages.
Music is life, man. Music is life. So how do you go about structuring a song? Like when you're doing your songs, like
Good question. So at first I would be like, all right, I'll be like, all right, yo, Ginoy, you're gonna write a song. But I found for myself it would feel forced. It's almost like you can hear it. Like you're like, it doesn't feel right. So now I only write or do music when I feel inspired. Like that's my process. And then, so let's say I hear a beat. If something doesn't come to my mind right away, then I know it's not organic. If I keep listening to it and I'm like trying to make something happen, oftentimes I get stuck on a certain way of thinking. So I try to just make it as organic as possible. And I'll just start humming something, whatever. I might get a melody or whatever have you. And then go from, that's really my process about how I approach it. But for me, like, I want to ensure that I say something. Like, I don't want to just be talking for talking's sake. Like, most times, if I'm saying something, there's a meaning behind it, or there's a story behind it. It's not just the words that you're hearing. It's not just superficial in value or in face value. So usually have a meaning behind it. I remember we had a little band, if you want to call it that, 365. So it was me, Mills, and John. And we would go to my laundromat in my building, 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night. We would pray up, play some beats, and just be in the laundromat, whatever, vibing out, whatever, and then writing songs or coming up with a hook and like, all right, we're going to go away and do that, But the approach is all just, I want to give God glory. I want to let people know, either the struggle I'm going through or what they're facing, the reality of their relationship with God and the steps needed to either fix that or to cope with the situation they're dealing with. So that's pretty much the framework of how I think about or approach music.
Yeah.
How are you introduced into I'll say Christian gospel rap?
Oh yeah, I remember. So Pastor Gary was bringing us to church, right? So I remember he had this black, I think it was an Altima, and he would have CDs, right? So he would be playing stuff, and I'm like, yo, who is this? Like, like playing like these old these songs, and I'm like, yo, what is this? And it was like Christian rap, and I was shocked. I'm like, they have Christian rap? Like, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm used to growing up listening to like Jadakiss, Fab, like, people like that. Like, it's usually East Coast rappers. So when I heard it, I was just like, this is interesting. Just the fact that they can rap or use the art form of rap to convey the gospel message. I was like, that's interesting. At the same time, not curse or anything like that. I was like, yo, that's powerful. Because it's like, when you're used to cursing and stuff like that, ask anyone, try saying a sentence without cursing. It's like hard. You know what I mean? So the fact that they're doing that, I was like, yo, this is sick. So that was really my introduction to it. He would make CDs for us because it was just something new I've never heard before. And then just listening to it and hearing artists such as like The Truth, in the initial stages, Lecrae, Ambassador, Cross Movement, people such as that. I mean, it wasn't the same quality like, you're listening to the world.
Yeah.
But it was just about like, what they were saying. And I was like, this is very interesting, So that was kind of my introduction to it.
Just to follow up, I guess, on that, it's like, I want to ask you basically the influence on, I guess, today's generation when it comes to Christian rap music. There's so many different artists out there, Christian artists out there, and the types of music is very catchy. It's very different.
Yeah.
You know, I guess nowadays it's not necessarily just about the words, but you can see it or hear it in the beats. You know, the beat of the sound is so different, and the influence on the generation today. How would you describe Christian music and the influence that it has, the impact that it has on today's generation Christians, today's Christian?
Well, music on a whole has a huge influence on individuals, Christian hip-hop music. And I think it's a very thin line that they walk. Reason being is because you want to get people's attention. You want to grab your listeners. So in terms of the beats and stuff like that, it's pretty much the same type of style beats you're hearing with secular music, right? The flows and stuff like that are very similar. So someone has to be a real engaging listener to really tell the difference. You're like, oh, like that sounds like worldly music, but it's like, no, it's different. Like if you listen to what they're saying. Most people, when they're listening to music, they don't listen to what they're saying.
No.
They listen to the beat, they listen to the hook, they might play it back a few times, they're like, oh, they're saying that? Like, I'm sure there's songs you sang as a kid, you got older, and you're like, yo, that's what they're talking about?
Yes.
You never thought about it,
Yes.
right? So they walk a very thin line in it. It can be good and bad. Has huge influence. But I know for me, songs like Hold On, Flame, hold on, be strong, hold on, 'cause our God is a warrior. Like that gave me actionable steps. Hold on, be strong, despite where you're facing in life, hold on. Like I understood, it gave me something I can do. Nowadays it's just talking, you know? Bill, I think it was Bizzle that actually said like dudes are becoming Christian rappers because they can't make it in the music industry.
Oh my
right?
God.
Oh,
So
my days.
it's like a default, right? Yeah, like I said, I think that it just you walk a thin line. And what's very important is, if you are a Christian, because people will say I'm not a Christian rapper. No, you are a Christian, first and foremost.
Yes.
And what you do is rap. So you are a Christian rapper, right? I guess because they don't want to put yourself in a box.
Yeah.
But our goal, or my goal, always is to minister and let Christ get the glory. I don't want it to be about myself. If someone says, if they leave thinking, oh, that was, he's good, you failed. But if they leave thinking that, oh, they were impacted or I can see Christ in that, then you succeeded.
I like that. I like the ministry part, because a lot of songs, they don't minister.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's so close towards the world. You're just saying nonsense. They start ministering about themselves, talking about, they're not even talking their testimony. But a lot of times as Christians, we fall into that trap of liking those type of music. But me, even when I'm writing a song myself, it's just like I try to put myself in somebody's shoes. Talking about a girl going through this, a guy going through this. Even though I don't know no one going through that, it was just like I know situations like out there are real. And you're ministering the word of God. Christ crucified.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why those music that are ministering about people and themselves, sometimes it's hard for me to listen to that.
Yeah.
So how do you even stay away from falling into that line, that trap?
I guess the thing is do you really have to stay away from it? And kind of playing devil's advocate in a sense. Like, you have to know, like, okay, for example, when you go to a vending machine, right, it has a lot of selection there. You go there for a specific item, even though that the options there are a multitude of items there.
Yeah.
You have to know, like, I'm listening to this, what type of, like, why am I listening to this? Like, there's some stuff is just feel-good music. Like, okay, I'm just trying to get a vibe. There's some stuff, like, I know, okay, this is very intentional why I'm listening to this. If you look at it in a worldly sense, a lot of times people go and do drills or stuff like that. They listen to a specific type of music.
Yes.
For example, like Chicago drill music and stuff like that. Like, that's what a lot of times influence a lot of gun violence. Like, you listen to a certain type and it puts you in a certain zone.
Yeah.
So I think that you can't put it in a box. You're going to because maybe people are individuals. They're going to want to create what they want to create. But you have to be conscious of what you're listening to. For me, to answer your question specifically, how do I stick away from it? A lot of times, to be honest, I listen to worship, or I don't listen to anything. Like a lot of times, my car is just quiet, right? I might listen to a sermon or just be thinking, thinking about life or whatever have you like that.
Might listen to an episode of Genesis Cast.
All right.
Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify.
I think your taste buds change as you get older. Your taste buds change. Like I remember, I think I was in grade 8, grade 9. This girl came up to me and she goes, "Yo, who's better, Jay-Z or 50?" I was like, in my mind, I was like, who's 50 Cent? Like I never heard of him before. But I was like, I don't know, Jay-Z, whatever. And I go home, run home after school, and all I hear is, woo, you know that track?
Nah.
No.
It's
You
50,
you know that track,
AKA Ferrari. You want?
that song,
Anyways.
He knows.
That chunk came out, Wankster, right? Yeah. And I was like, yo, this is banging. This is bumping, right? I became an instant 50 addict. Like every morning before school, I was bumping that loud in my house, getting ready for school. But it was just the feeling of it, right? How it made me feel, like the sound, like it was catchy, like I liked it. Right. Like I didn't get into like his whole persona, but it caught me, right? So you have to understand that you're gonna get people's attention. So what are you leaving with them when you do get their attention, right? And what words are you speaking as a Christian? I'm speaking as for those who are Christians. You want to encourage them. You want to either convict them. You want them to have a worldly perspective, a biblical perspective on how they see the world. That should always be our ambition. It's to minister. Yes. And I try to, for the most part, have that approach.
How long have you been writing music for, and has the style of your music changed as Christian rap or Christian music evolved?
1,000%. Style has definitely changed. How long have I been writing music? I guess a couple years, but it was, at the beginning, it was never really like songs by myself. It was just be it was collaborative effort, or I'll just be doing like a course or something like that. Like I said, it was only until there was like a need in the church I started really doing it on my own. Yeah. Sorry, you asked the second part of your question.
Yeah, the style of your music.
Oh, style,
right?
yeah. So at first when I was writing stuff, I'll be like trying to fit in 1,000 words in 16 bars. Like I'm just like, everything has like 50 meanings. But I guess that's my natural way of approaching, but I realize a lot of times we'll be performing at concerts, and I'm like, people are not getting it, right? They're only hearing it at one time. They're like, they don't get what I'm saying, right? Yeah. So I had to kind of change how I wrote, because I'm like, it needs to be something that they can kind of understand when they hear it. But at the same time, if they go back and listen to it, they're like, oh, you mean, there's something more that you mean to it, right? Yeah. So I kind of simplified the way I write, because there's some songs you hear on an album, this is an album track. Yes. There's some songs, this is a performance track. Yes. It's very different, right? Yeah. So I think for us, a lot of times is we're usually just performing and not recording the songs. For years, I never recorded anything. It was just performing it. And I'm like, I'll get caught in the midst of, this song is really just, it's something you need to listen to. I can't really perform this, right? Or I can perform it after you listen to it, right? So that's kind of how things have changed. I kind of simplified my pattern or my style because I want people to be engaged in it. Yeah. But secondly to that, Desi, like as flows and stuff change, you change because that's the kind of the style that's out, right? Yeah. And that's what you like now, right? So it's like, okay, out of that, that's how you minister. Out of your well, people drink from that, right? That's what you pour out. So, yeah.
Okay, so speak to the temptation of Christian musicians today, right? Who are talented and gifted, right? And they kind of like, under the pressure of the world, they kind of like give that gift to the world instead of Christ, and speak of the destruction that comes after that.
this is tough because, in a sense, if you think about it, we all work jobs, and usually our bosses are secular. So are you giving your gift to the world when you go to work? So that's why it's tough, right? Because sometimes they giving them a gift. Because the Bible says, like, Jesus said, like, I don't pray that you be taken out the world, but that he's going to leave you in the world that you can minister to them, right? So it's a tricky balance, and I think it's very specific to the individual. For some, I say, they may get into the music industry and they use their gifts to glorify God. For some, going all the way is going to be bad for them, right? Because let's say there was nothing like that. What would you listen to? You would have nothing to listen to.
That's true.
Right? Yeah. So you're going to need people to have Christian music, or you're going to need people to be in the music industry, right? Yeah. But I get in a sense what you're talking about, like, people who just go in the world and are only on the worldly side, and then they get carried away with that. Yes, that definitely can happen, because we know that the temptation of the world, the pride of life, the lust of the eyes, the lust of the eyes, and the lust of the flesh, that's definitely there, and you could succumb to that because we're fleshly beings, But I really think that in all that you do, you have to be conscious. You have to be very intentional. You have to analyze it, because the devil, if he can't destroy you, he's just going to make you someone that has ineffective or has no influence, right? And he's going to make you someone that has no impact. So he's like, okay, get into this, whatever have you. I'm going to bless you, whatever. And your goal is I want to make impact, but you're losing that in that situation. So always being cognizant of where you are and effects that, first of all, it's having on you. I think for a lot of people, they're like, oh, it's not affecting others. This is not affecting others. No, is it affecting you? Right. We hear the story, I think Lecrae's last album, Restoration or whatever. He confesses, like, I was drinking with these guys, I was smoking with these guys, I lost myself. And his whole ambition was, I want to get into their environment so I can influence them. But for most people, you get into those environments, it's going to influence you.
Exactly.
So
yes.
Exactly.
So you have to be very cognizant of what's taking place, right? If someone says they want to do music professionally, I'm not going to shoot them down, because we never know, right? But I think the safest bet is, they need to be a person of the word. They need to have a good team around them, good foundation. And they just need to be cognizant. As long as you be in obedience to the Holy Spirit and to God, then you're good. The moment you're walking away from that, you get yourself into danger. So that's kind of how I would answer that. I don't think it's black and white. I think it's a case-by-case scenario. But there are red flags, and like I said, it's usually how it affects you, because we minister out of who we are, what's in our way.
I think definitely so much you said. Don't have too much time. I know we got to wrap up soon, but I want you to be creative right now. I'm going to ask you something.
Okay.
I need you to be very, very creative. It's going to be kind of hard, but
I don't know
try.
if that's my gift. That's my wife's gift, but I'll try.
If you can give someone who is a Christian, obviously born again, saved Christian, but wants to make Christian music advice, right? Using a line or lyrics, whatever, from any song that you've made, right? So try to think about any song, lyrics that you've made, or even you can think of the top of your head. What advice would you give them, right? And I'm telling you to do it based off of a lyric or any type of line you remember on a track that you've made.
Okay. Give me a second to think. Okay, there's this line that says, I go, I stop, then move action. You stand, you blowing whistles and bells. Looking classy, you far from a Christian, so tell me your passion. Not Christ, so you're destined to hell. With no cross, there's no payment for your sin. Look into the mirror glass, see into your sinful past. How you think you got this bad? Compromise filled your path. Taste but footless, taste this meat. How you stand to be far from Jesus, depart from me, you lawless heathen. World desires took your... So pretty much what I'm saying is that...
Come on, guy.
That's it. That's why I asked him. He got something there.
So pretty much what I'm saying is like religiousness and right relationship with God can look similar. But a lot of people are blowing whistles and bells, but they're far from a Christian. Noise doesn't mean impact, or noise doesn't mean you're doing the right thing.
Wow.
It's the cross, right?
Yes.
That's good.
I heard someone say it's we're prosperous through the cross. So as long as you keep the cross close, I think you'll be on the right path. You know,
That's
look
good.
into the Bible says in James, don't be hearers only, but be doers, because be doers of His word. Because the man who is only a hearer only, it's like they look into a mirror and they see their reflection and walk away forgetting what they look like.
Yeah.
Have you ever looked into a mirror and forgot how you looked? That's how deceived we are when we don't obey what we hear. Right. So I'll wrap it up in that.
You know, I have one more thing to ask you. It might open up.
That's fine.
Can
That's
of
fine. You
worms.
guys got time.
Okay. You know what? Let's take a quick break. Let's take a quick break. I know. You're looking at me. You're like, bro, what are you doing right now? I know, Mello. I know. But yo, this is good. We have to ask this question.
All right.
We might have to divide it in two parts, though.
We're gonna get back into it. We're gonna get right back into it. All right. We'll get right back into it, guys. All right, guys. We back again. Same old thing, same old crew. We still got Ginoy with us. We were about to cut it off, but I had to ask Ginoy this question. I had to make sure we talk about this because Ginoy dropped, or why am I calling the man Ginoy? G-RYTE dropped his first album, Summer '08.
Yeah.
Right? Summer '08, right?
That's correct.
I know you crossed out the A and put, the 6, so.
Yeah,
Was it?
Summer '08.
Summer, okay.
Why did you do that, by the way? Why did you do that?
Oh man, it's just going back in my testimony. So just real quick, just coming to Christ. My first experience was back in '06.
Okay.
But I never fully surrendered to 2008.
Coming for the food and the juice.
Coming for the vibes.
Coming for the vibe, coming out the hood, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Here and there, yeah.
When I heard that you dropped an album, when I seen the album, I was like, wow. You know, because you always hear people, especially, like guys in our fellowship, guys that were close to there, I was like, yo, I want to drop an album, but it never happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And sometimes you go up to them, you're like, yo, bro, you need to drop an album, but it never happens.
Yeah.
Right? And I know you were one of those people, like, it's like, yo, when is this guy going to drop an album? When is this guy going to drop an album? Right? So when I finally seen you drop an album, I was like, yes.
Yeah.
I was like, finally. And I remember there was when we were going to Rochester. Right?
Oh,
yeah. Remember
yes,
that, right?
Yes.
We're going to Rochester. And we were talking about that, and I asked him, like, yo, you ever going to drop an album? And you're like, yeah, you're actually thinking about it and stuff like that. So when I actually seen your album, when I seen that come full circle, I was like, yo, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Right?
Where can people find the album? Let the
It's on
people know.
all platforms. I think Apple, Spotify, YouTube. You just type in Summer '08 or G-RYTE, G-RYTE. And they can find it there. Yeah.
So what compelled you at that time to say, okay, no, this is the time for me to finally do this?
Well, for a long time, I keep saying this, and I hope doesn't get redundant, but I never wanted the focus to be on myself. Like, to me, the gospel was so pure, in the sense that there's this God who loved us so much that despite the fact that we are messed up, came and saved us, right?
Yeah.
For simplistic terms. But so I was like, it's so pure. So I'm like, I don't want to ever distract people from that message. So I was always like, yo, you should make an album. I was always like, I'm not trying to get famous. Right. That's not really something I'm really trying to do. I just simply do this as I get. It's just a need in the church. I'm not trying to make a career out of this. Yeah, so that was kind of the thing. I'm slipping your question now. Forgive me. What did you say? You said what inspired me to do this?
Yeah,
now?
what made you choose?
What made me? So so we're minister. I was doing songs and stuff like that, and then one of the guys in church was like, "Yo, you should." He backslid and came back, and he's like, "Yo, you should record this." And I was like, First of all, I'm not trying to make money off this. Recording takes a lot of money. So
Yeah.
am I just gonna put all this money into something that I'm not really trying to make money off of? Like that's kind of crazy in a sense. And at that time, like I have kids and stuff like that. Like I don't have disposable income like that.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
maybe if I was single and I'm like, I just make like, all right, I can waste this money over here. But at that time in my life, I'm like, I can't. But he's like, yo, I have a spot we can go. It's it's relatively affordable. I said, all right, bet we can do that. And then we went there, and actually the guy that was there, I'm like, I actually went to school with him. So I was like, wow, that's crazy. But I was like I said, I was very hesitant to do it. Like I said, I didn't want the glory to come to me.
Right.
But people have always asked me, other people that do music, and I think at this time in my life, I was more mature, more grounded in my faith. I felt like I had more of an understanding of my faith and where I was at as an individual. And I said, all right, now that you set it up, all the stars are aligning, it seems like, all right, let's do it. And that's kind of how it was. Very spontaneous. It wasn't planned in a sense. The opportunity presented itself, and I said, all right, cool, let's do it.
The reason I think people were always coming up to you and like, yo, you should do this. I know, like, I'll speak for myself.
Yeah.
Because I think many people might be thinking the same way.
Mm-hmm.
That you want to hear music from people that are solid.
Yes.
Like I know you're solid. I know your doctrine's solid, right? Like I don't have to worry about going on Wikipedia, right? and seeing,
Jehovah's Witness rapper.
and seeing that you're oneness, right?
yeah.
Or you know what I mean? I don't have to worry about that,
Yeah.
right? Because I know you, like I fellowship with you. I know your wife. I know your kids. You know what I mean? I know you're solid,
Yeah.
right? So I think people want to hear music. People want to hear things from people that they know are grounded in Christ, grounded in the Word of God.
Praise
and
God,
there's nothing funky going on right here.
Yeah.
You're listening to a guy today, and then 3 months down the line, the man's swearing up a blaze, the man's smoking, the man. It's like, what is going on? You found out the man's gay. It's like, what? What's going on?
Yeah.
And that's the reality.
Thing.
of
What's that
Christian
guy's
world.
name?
The
Jay
Hillsong
Gibbons
leader?
or
Jay Gibbons.
whatever.
Jay Gibbons.
Man.
Yeah. I think that goes back to kind of a question that Desi was asking earlier about like the dangers. A lot of these guys are not in a local church. They have no headship over them, right? They're just free agents, if you want to call it
Right.
that.
A lot of Christian rappers are like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Ask them who's their pastor.
They don't have
Ask
a pastor.
them who's the
They
church.
don't have- They
No.
may
What
attend a
church they go to,
church
yeah.
here and there, but they don't really have. They're not part of
Yeah.
a church,
church,
right?
yeah.
So I think that's the missing variable.
lot of them are
That's the
Christian
secret sauce.
nationalists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of Christian nationalists out there that claim
Yeah.
Christianity.
Yeah.
There's nothing else. Just like Donald Trump. Christian. Fights for the Christian cause. Everything Christian, but there's no church, there's no pastor behind him.
Yeah.
Right.
Just where it is in music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
You have to be careful with that. There's people that love Donald Trump.
I don't have a problem with Donald Trump. But you gotta know. You gotta know.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with Donald Trump.
Oh man, this has been great, man. Ginoy, thank you for coming out, man. I think everything that you've said, from your testimony through your experience with music, why you started music, your outlook with certain things, it's been perfect. It's been amazing, right? And we don't throw out that perfect word, loosely.
Nah,
right?
man. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. I wish I could, spend more time with you guys, speak some more, I feel free to come at another time if you guys so have it.
Yeah. When the second album comes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, man, let's just, I guess, I like what you guys are doing, as I said, just using a platform to encourage people and attacking different topics. So keep up the good work, and give you guys a pat on the back,
Appreciate
using
that.
your giftings for God.
Really appreciate that. Really appreciate that. Well, guys, it's it. We're signing out. I don't know if you guys have anything else to say.
I know. I think it's
God in me. I'm just robbing. I'm just robbing.
Is he gonna freestyle a little bit?
La 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 la.
You guys
All right, I'll do something real quick. All right. Bring the camera close and look at. Don't you see the signs in the world? It's an aftermath. Symptoms real obvious like you're puffing on that Charlie friend. Real simple men hearts are moving hard again. Real simple men, we're running out of modern tape and one away. Don't you see that we're running out of modern day? Cut the track. Attention at the heart of man, suffering heart attack, more serious than a body bag. I'm gonna attack the master, an actor, yeah, an evangelist. The woman see what breezes head, the woman see what put him in. Crawl forward. False fashion is evangelistic. Women think they're Mr., but your Mr. might be Victoria. Hating a nature, reflecting mirrors of this world, human nature. About time we sit down and think about all the ins and outs. This merry-go-round. DJ, turn the speakers loud. Go catch that Genesis podcast.
Get it! That being said,
Let's go.
we wrapping up, man. We got nothing else to say.
That's it.
It's the Genesis cast, man. We out of here, man. We out of here, man.